Let me give you some tips on adjusting tensions on the Husqvarna Viking Embroidery S600. So first off, one of the things we always recommend our students do is get comfortable with your serger by using the color codes and colored spools of thread to start to see where all those threads actually land within a stitch. Now, eventually you don't have to do this and then switch to your color you're using, but it is helpful to understand like where your needles stitch, where the loopers are, is that the upper one and the lower one, and what it's supposed to look like on the back side. But there is some great features on this machine that will also assist, and I'm going to show you how to adjust these. So first off, we're just on a normal 4-thread overlock. So what is this actually supposed to look like? Do you know if you touch the eye for information, it will bring up what the stitch will look like on the front side and the back side. So if your fabric isn't looking identical, yes, we might need to change something. Now, we did talk about quality serger thread. When students of mine do not show up with quality serger thread, sometimes it doesn't matter that their machine is perfect, but the stitches are not, because the thread is kind of got some thickness, it's got some thinness, and it's trying to struggle with thread that's not consistent. And that is a true statement. If you want to eliminate all your headaches with a lot of tensions that you might have had on previous sergers, use good quality serger thread. We've got some links below these YouTube videos to the Mettler thread that I use a lot, and some other recommended decorative threads if you're interested. But I love that little eye for information. Next, instead of starting to adjust tensions if it's not perfect, I want you to do this first. Open this up. And then as you look inside each of these grooves, and I know you're not going to be able to see it, but when you look inside, make sure that the thread color that is coming down through the tension discs is actually in deep enough that it's in the tension disc. So if you just thread it and it lays on the outside of the tension disc, now you're going to have a loop of thread just randomly. It'll still stitch, but it'll look ugly. So you'll know that one of these threads is not in the discs. And all you need to do is take the thread and kind of floss it from the top and bottom and sink it in there. The other thing to do to eliminate that is make sure that when you are threading the machine, make sure your presser foot is up. Just like your sewing machine, when your presser foot is up, these tension discs are actually open, and they will be much easier to actually get the thread in there. So as I always say, thread with purpose. Hold the thread, sink it down in there with the presser foot up. It should eliminate a lot of those things. But if you look down through here and you see a thread not where it's supposed, if you can actually see it, you know it's not where it should be. So just go back and kind of peek inside there. Another thing is if you can't figure it out, just rethread the machine. Sometimes that will solve the issue that you can't see or find where the problem is. And this machine is so easy to thread because of the air threading system that's really not as hard as it sounds these days. So just kind of keep that in mind. Thread it when your mind is mentally fresh and not late at night if you're having trouble. Do it in the next morning and it will make a huge difference. Okay, I'm going to lower down the presser foot, so that's another tip here. The next tip I want to give you is that when you are adjusting tensions, you can touch on screen where this kind of tension area is with the colors next to it. When you touch it, it opens up. Now you are going to notice that all these numbers are different, and that's okay, because on this machine, we have the option to tell the machine what fabric we're using. And so when you pick a fabric, it's actually going to change these numbers a little bit based on the stitch you're using and the fabric you're using. And so just go with it, start here. But if you are going to change the tension, what you're going to see, like for example, this one starts at 1.3, this one starts at 1.0, and just by touching it, it will highlight, and then you can come over here and increase it would be plus, that's tighter tension. It'll help pull it down a little bit more versus loosening it. But you will find that each time you touch the minus or plus, it only changes 1/10 of an amount. And so you're only going to see a change if you really start to go a full number. So this started at 1.0, so I would need to go at least to 2 before seeing even remotely a difference. Keep that in mind. So if you're doing any of the loopers, you are probably going to need to change them a number or 2 to see any results. On the needles, you might be able to see a results with just a half of amount or as you go up or down. Now, you do see that as the numbers get back to normal, they're no longer highlighted. So do note that you can find where that was, or if you can't find where that is, here's the easiest trick. Touch the stitch up top, pick a different stitch, X out of that, and come back to, we were on the 4th thread overlock, and then you'll have everything back to normal settings. Pick the 4th thread overlock, and then come back here, and you'll see that everything is back to normal settings. So if you can't figure out where you were, that's the easiest way to clear it off. Of course, turning off your machine and turning it back on, that will do it also. So how do we know when to adjust it? If you see stitches that are actually rolling to the back side or rolling to the front and they're not meeting along the edge, you can make those loopers tighter or looser. They can either pull or release depending on which way you want to go. And sometimes I do both. So instead of, if it's kind of down, I might pull a little and release a little, and so they come back to the edge of the fabric. When I flip it over, if I'm not seeing those little dots that you see where the needles are, then again I might, and I see loops, I'm going to double check that my threads are in the tension, and then I might increase it by a little bit at a time on the needles so the loops are nice and tight. Once those loops are nice and tight, you get a nice straight edge here, and when you open it up, it is a nice straight seam as well. Now if you open this up and you see threads like smiling at you, that's when you know you need to tighten up some needle threads or needle tensions and see if you're getting better results. Tell you the truth, if you're using good quality thread, you're probably not having to do much adjustment with tension. Make sure you watch all the videos that we have on this machine, because there could be something else that could be a better adjustment, such as cutting width or pressure of your presser foot or stitch length that actually might be interfering with getting that stitch to lay out perfect. But once you get started with good quality thread, I think you're going to find that Serger is going to give you a perfect Serger stitch or cover stitch every single time you sew.